Greetings and welcome back to the New York Virtual Photo Salon. I'm Lavon Hall, your host for this event. Thank you for tuning in last time. I hope the imagery and story was all inspiring. If you haven't seen it yet and the rest of our awesome speakers, click on the links in the description. Also, leave us comments, subscribe, and like this channel. This week, I'm super excited to present Nelly Ating, an amazing reporter, photojournalist, and growth manager, all the way from Nigeria and the UK. So sit back and enjoy the show. Thanks for watching.
Hi, my name is Nelly Ating. I'm a photojournalist currently based in the UK. For the last 4 to 5 years, I have been documenting insurgency in Nigeria and also the Nigerian brain drain, meaning Nigerian professionals who are migrating, which is actually an interesting story. So we'll begin. The first image on my screen or on your screen is a woman I met in 2018. She was a wife of a Boko Haram fighter. She had given up her daughter to marry a Boko Haram soldier, thinking that with that kind of support, her family would be saved. Unfortunately, her husband had joined Boko Haram without letting her know. And when I met her in the camp, she was ostracized at some point and stereotyped, called Boko Haram's wife. And till when I left last time I met her, she was, seeking forgiveness. So those are the kind of stories that I focus on, soft stories, human interest angle to why do we have this guerrilla war that has been ongoing for over a decade, and till today there seems to be no end to it. I actually have a page or a body of work on my website, that speaks directly to that this war has found a home, because for real. This insurgency has really found a home. I see it as a money milking machine for so many people, so many players. Well, next we'll move on to the next image. So the next image I have is when I spoke about my work my work documenting conflict and migration. This is an example of a Nigerian who can afford to migrate, as opposed to what we are always saying in the news about African migrants or African refugees instead, because I prefer to call them refugees. These are not people that can afford to migrate. Migrants are someone that decided to migrate, to move to a different country. Refugees are either displaced by conflict or humanitarian crisis. So I always reject the word migrants. So these are some of the Nigerians I photograph who are professionals and can afford to migrate, citing conflict, citing hardship for being the reason why they can't migrate or why they are migrating, and they can actually afford it, which is something that has not been covered extensively in the news. So I began documenting faces to this migration. And it's been interesting because I've met, if most of them are mostly health workers, doctors. So Nigeria is currently losing lots of medical professionals to countries in the West. And the next image is a Chaparral. So I documented this village that was bombed briefly during a crisis between farmers and herders. So the origin of the farmer and herders crisis is from the drying of the Lake Chad, which hasn't been also extensively researched. So the drying of the Lake Chad has caused economic downturn in neighboring countries like Chad, Nigeria, Niger, Cameroon, neighboring countries surrounding the Lake Chad. And most of the cattle that used to graze around the Lake Chad, currently all the cattle rearers are moving towards urban areas to graze their cattle. So you now have a case of land struggle between the farmers and the herders. So this was a farming community that was largely affected, and the Nigerian Air Force, I can't really place what really happened, but they ended up dropping rockets in those people, their homes, the farmers, their homes, and they were deeply pained. So they kept some of these shrapnels as proof that the Nigerian Army Air Force Authority dropped rockets in their homes. And then that's the pastor's wife who, in trying to escape, the cut off her arm was chopped in the middle of escaping, but she survived, so she lived to tell her story. And that's the village that was, I mentioned that I went into the village right after the attack had happened. What has been portrayed as this insurgency, in the middle of all of this turmoil, people are finding love. And I met this schoolgirl. So I found something so my work again is deeply rooted in trauma. I talk a lot about trauma and vulnerability because I have seen it firsthand how vulnerability has become a very powerful tool, especially for people who are marginalized. So I met this young girl who was a Boko Haram Amora. That's someone who cleans guns and let's say, arms after a war. So she was doing that for Boko Haram. She was also abducted at the age of 10. And she was doing that for a while until she was rescued. And an NGO called NIM Foundation decided to offer psychosocial support to children who were abducted by Boko Haram and children who were children of the Joint Task Force and children of Boko Haram fighters. So they had them together in one class, but they did not know. They don't know, but they put them together in one class to teach them about. They have this creative education that talks about healing and also forgiveness. So, and these are some schoolgirls in the Northeast. I know if you're currently following the news now in Nigeria, over 300 schoolboys again have been abducted. Within a decade of this insurgency, you've had over 1,000 schools being attacked by the insurgents. And the insurgents' name loosely means education is forbidden. So you can clearly see that they constantly attack education. And I keep asking one question. If you keep attacking education, what are you expecting children who will turn 20 in the next 10 years or in the next 15 years who have witnessed this crisis? How are we looking at, how are they going to adapt back into the society after experiencing so much trauma? And research has it that a child who has witnessed trauma not 5 blocks away from his or her home would not likely not go back to school. So those are the kind of collective trauma, dehumanizing that Nigerians have gone through. And it is where it is, and right now we have 30 million out of school children, and the number can only go up. It's a very sad situation that I'm saying can, because it is possible that the number will go up. And then after I started focus during the coronavirus period, I started looking at movement. Nigeria has a poor transportation system, so I was worried about people who use local public transport, because I don't use public transport and I lived in Lagos. And just getting from point A to point B, how many people would contract the virus? And I noticed something was interesting. Even at the nick of the lockdown, people were not even wearing their face masks. So you can see that some people just came out because as soon as the lockdown was called off, some people came out because you are either killed by hunger or you're killed by coronavirus. So you have to pick your poison. So every time people talk about physical distancing, I always say it's luxury. It's luxury to a lot of you guys who can afford it. For some people in low-income communities, they can't. And I started documenting schools as well that were reopening, seeing how children were coping, especially during this period. And I had gone to this school where kids were just writing their exams, and you can tell that it wasn't easy for a lot of them. Some of them couldn't even afford to have a smartphone to stay connected throughout the whole 6 months lockdown for kids that were away for 6 months. Then I started digging into rituals, and I went into this white garment church. They were very graceful enough to allow me to document their service, just to see how they were managing with physical distances. And this was the first service as soon as the lockdown was called off in Lagos. It was in August this year. And they were graceful enough to allow me to document them. And you could see that, Nigerians are very religious people, and you can't take it away from them. So as soon as the lockdown was called off, some people immediately went back to church. Now you can still see, when I say physical distancing is a luxury, now you can still see what I mean by that. Then, So something interesting happened. I belong to a group called the Collective Journal. It's a group of over 400 women across the world, like across different parts of the world. And what we have been doing for the past months is to just document our intimate moments in our homes with this whole corona. And I had to, for once, just imagine all the stories I've told you and finally having to point the camera to myself. It was shocking how vulnerable I felt in front of the camera, but I had to do it. And there I discovered that I was dealing with, I had a severe PMS called premenstrual dysphoric disorder. And it wasn't like something that I've battled with for a long time. I thought it was side effect of antibiotics, but later I discovered that nope, it wasn't. I needed help because 15% women who have had this are almost suicidal or have committed suicide. So it was quite depressing to realize that I was actually going through this. And for the past years of documenting conflict, absorbing all the stories, I haven't actually taken care of myself. I'm not like I had access to health, so some sort of insurance that could help. So anyway, like it's a jungle. You have to fight for yourself. It wasn't really long after the lockdown, the whole coronavirus, Nigeria's inflation, and then we had it was Nigeria's 60th independence when the youth started asking questions, and immediately what started out as just some banter on Twitter actually led to a physical protest that I don't know if you've heard about it. It's called the EndSARS campaign, which I also documented, but I focused on the cultural aspect of it. How powerful is ideology in driving a protest. Back in the days, Nigeria, we've had like other protests like Occupy Nigeria in 2012, but with the EndSARS campaign, it was just millennials and Gen Zs who have never experienced a civil war. Most of who have don't even have a clear understanding of what the Boko Haram insurgency feels like. So they don't know what chaos in the society. That disruption. They don't understand what it means. So I was very grateful to document this history because I know it's very historical. And for once, nothing had sparked or threatened the government in this manner as this EndSARS campaign, because it was decentralized. They had no leader. It was just a group of young people who were crowdfunding. At some point, they had to even use cryptocurrency to crowdfund. So you can see a lot of technological determinism, culture, ideology, manifest in this EndSARS campaign. So I focused on the cultural aspect of the protest. So you can see that Afropop is very huge in Nigeria. So at this point, you can see young people also, dancing. And when they were dancing, they kept chanting EndSARS, EndSARS. And for me, I was like, this is it. This is a change. This is a change that comes with technology, because, they're also filming themselves and literally putting they were also self-documenting their entire protest time. And I'll leave you with the last image of the EndSARS campaign. I'm super proud of young Nigerians for doing this. It might seem like they have been silenced after the Lekki massacre, but these are young people who are questioning the society, questioning the system, and it makes me very hopeful that Nigeria will definitely bounce back. Thank you.
Thank you, Nelly, for inviting us to hear and see the conflicts in Nigeria and about your internal struggles. I'm so relieved that you found help, you're taking care of yourself, and also willing to help others with similar issues. Hopefully things will get better over there, and quite grateful that we've connected. I hope everyone enjoyed this visual story and follow Nelly to hear more. So please give it a thumbs up, leave comments, and subscribe to this channel. Thank you all for tuning in, and the New York Virtual Photo Salon Committee. I'm Levon Hall, and we'll see you next time with some more engaging speakers.